And this week, the Patreon chose Lieutienet from Fallout 1. Now, a little bit of backstory on who the Master is, what the Unity is, and why it's so important to the first game. Without spoiling anything for a 26-year-old game, a 27-year-old game, you leave the vault in search of a water chip in the first game. You find the water chip and we return to your Overseer. The Vault Dweller returns to the Overseer Jackarin, who's never quite sure how to say his name. You explain to him that there's mutants out there, and he says you should go out there and figure out what's up with these muties. And you go out and you find out that these mutants are taking people so they can dip them in these vats of goo at the Mariposa military base, which is a very important location in Fallout's history, it being essentially where the Brotherhood started. That's where the first Maxon was. He denounces his citizenship, he denounces his military status, and then the bombs drop. Shortly after he does that, he takes over and he slowly leaves once he finds out that the government... he renounced all of that and leaves after the bombs drop, but all of that was because he found out that the government was experimenting on humans with the forced evolutionary virus, right? So in comes the Master, who I have a bit of lore on. He's got a very long story. He was a human at one point in time. He went to go check out Mariposa with a small group of other Wastelanders, and he fell into a vat of goo. And when you meet him, he's an amalgamated mass of different humans and beings who is fused into an Overseer's chair at the Los Angeles Vault, which is actually a prototype vault to show things off, which we'll probably see, honestly, in Season 2 of Fallout on Prime. But the Master believes in the Unity, and the Unity is all humans being turned into super mutants. He believes that they're stronger, they are smarter. It depends on how much radiation you've been exposed to. If you've been exposed to a lot of radiation, your mutation can change. It also has stuff to do with your DNA, your genetics. Depending on how you are built, the F.E.V. can really mess with you. And that's where we get a fella like Lieutienet. Now, his name is Lieutienet. He is the lieutenant of the Master's army. And sometimes he goes by Lieutienet, like his first name is Lou and his last name is Tennant, or just Lou, simply. And he's incredibly strong because he's a super mutant. I actually have written down his special stats here. He has a 10 strength, an 8 perception, a 10 endurance, a 4 charisma, an 8 intelligence, a 7 agility, and a 6 luck. Pretty great build, honestly. The charisma's whatever. It seems like charisma seems to be the dumb stat in most games, but great build, right? He's the commander of the Mariposa military base. He is the Master's right-hand man. He is the dude who is essentially like a mini-boss for the game. He's the second antagonist. Like, he's another person you have to get through to get to the Master. And he's intelligent. Most modern-day Fallout fans believe super mutants to be dumb, and that's really not the case. More super mutants, especially if they're Master's mutants, there's a couple different variants of mutants, but Master's mutants more than likely are more intelligent. You do have dumber ones like Harry, who you meet in Necropolis. He's not the brightest, you can tell, but then you have individuals like Lieutienet, you have guys like Marcus from Jacobstown, you have the other super mutants that aren't just ready to fight and kill outside of Black Rock Mountain. The other super mutants that are at Jacobstown are super mutants that are looking for refuge. There will be a time, super mutants are kind of in the same realm as ghouls in the sense that we don't know how long they're going to live for, but they're bigger and they're smarter and they're stronger. And when it comes to Lieutienet, he is the pinnacle of what makes a super mutant. He's faster, he's tougher, he's more intelligent. He was the strongest one out of his group to be dipped into the vats to come out. And he genuinely believes that super mutants will inherit the earth. He believes when all humans, or as they refer to them as normals, once they're all gone, it'll be a super mutant world exclusively. Now, a big problem with this that you can kind of talk to the Master about is that if you can't reproduce, they're sterile. It's never said whether they even have reproductive organs. Super mutants are not male and they're not female. They seem masculine, but there's not a super mutant out there that has breasts. There's super mutants without shirts on. Yeah, we've seen them before, but they don't have like fatty breast tissue akin to biological women. Him believing in the Master so fervently has developed a cult-like behavior. Now, the Unity is like a pseudo-religion. It's a belief system, right? So it's not like this is the way all things must be for everyone outside of the Unity. So if you're in the Master's army, the Unity, they believe that this is what they're doing. They believe wholeheartedly what they're doing is right. He's been rewarded for his devotion with cybernetic implants and personalized equipment. So there's probably a picture of him on screen, or there's been a picture of him on screen. There's been something on screen about Lieutenant. He has an eye that is cybernetic, showing that, depending on the definition of it, synths kind of have existed in the series forever. Cyborgs, they were originally called cyborgs. They were also called androids, and then they were called synths. So it's kind of a gray area of where it is. And super mutants are based on human DNA. So I would assume you could make a synth super mutant. I don't know why you'd want to, but you could. If you can make them intelligent, great. But if you make them too intelligent and they find out that they're synths, they might go on a killing spree, and they're super mutants. They're really hard to take down. Like, incredibly hard to take down. Especially Fallout 1 times, incredibly hard to take down. You can ask him about his devotion to the Master. The Vault Dweller can say, how did you come to work for him in regards to the Master? And Lieutenant will say, fate, luck of the draw. I was the strongest of my batch to be dipped in the virus, and I've always supported the ideals of the Unity and the Master, for he is right, and my devotion has been rewarded. Now, again, like I said before, there are genuine super mutants that aren't just hulking masses of an IQ that is room temp. They can form thoughts. Marcus forms little extra lore for you. Marcus, who's a super mutant, who was a high-ranking soldier in the Master's Unity, when the Unity collapses, when the Vault Dweller takes down the Master, most of the mutants head eastward. That's why you don't see a lot of them in New Vegas. There's a very small pocket of super mutants. And Marcus actually meets up with a Brotherhood soldier, a knight, I believe, and his name is Jacob, and they become friends, and Marcus would argue the Unity, and Jacob would argue the Brotherhood, and they became friendly this way. Marcus is one of the oldest people in the games, and also one of the smartest people to ever be in the game. So if you're playing New Vegas for the first time, head up to Jacobstown and see a character who has an immense amount of history and lore. And also, there's a lore video on the channel here that you can go ahead and check out. They're no longer human, but they're no longer human the way ghouls are no longer human. They're based on human DNA. Ghouls are technically post-necrotic humans. Super mutants are technically mutated humans, because you can't just, like alchemy, pull out a super mutant out of your ass. They're built on humans. They're humans dunked into tanks of F.E.V, right? So I believe that Lieutenant keeps a little bit of his humanity. I feel like the best super mutants do keep a little bit of their humanity. Again, using Marcus as an example, he starts Jacobstown to help find out why the Nightkin are developing schizophrenia, right? So part of him believes that torture is barbaric, but it also gives him some sort of satisfaction. The super mutants are looking for pure humans because if you dip a pure human in F.E.V, they come out more like he does. Less contaminated, smarter, stronger, all the positives. And Luke can say, let me check. Why, yes. I almost laughed. How wonderfully humorous. The only place you're going is in the vat. But first, you'll tell me where your vault is. And the Vault Dweller can say, I hope you can take rejection. Lou. Well, we'll see about that. And then he punches the Vault Dweller. This man with 10 strength. And 112% melee damage. The way the original Fallout games work, it goes higher than 100% like in your stats. He punches him and says, feel better now? Since torture is such a crass yet oddly satisfying and effective technique, I'll ask you once more nicely, where is the vault? So if you find yourself in contact with Lou and if your first time playing it, you can get close enough to him and hear a conversation between him and a fella named Van Hagen. which will talk about the discovery of Vault 13, and just hearing that alone is worth 1,500 experience points. I'm telling you this if you've never played these before, because Fallout 1 is an incredibly hard game. I've been trying to beat this game for years. Now, you can ask, that's a nice thing about these games being on PC. I get all of my lore off of fallout.fandom.com, the Wikipedia, if you will, and for a little bit of this, I would like to read it directly off. There are quotes that I would like to read directly off of the wiki. Some of the nice things about Fallout 1 and 2 being PC games, exclusively PC games, is there an option to type things in to ask about the world. So if you know a little bit and you know you can trigger things, you can kind of trigger things in a certain order and you can do them ahead of time. So if you ask him about the Unity, he says, the Unity is the goal of all super mutants. Through the F.E.V. virus, we will bring all humanity together in peace. If you ask him about F.E.V., he'll say, the F.E.V. virus was discovered by the Master many years ago. It is what makes us the chosen ones. But you'll soon learn that, I assure you. The Master? He's the father to us all. The Cathedral? If you ask him about that, he'll say, nothing but a device to further our plans. No matter, all humans will be chosen. Or dead. If you ask him about the vats, he'll say, the vats are where the F.E.V. is stored, and where you normals become one of us. Of course, some die horribly, excruciatingly painful deaths, but, well, those are the breaks. Normals, they are humans who have not been exposed to radiation. They tend to be far better in the vats than others. You're a perfect example of this. If you ask him about the vaults, he'll say they were constructed before the war. They are also our main source of prime normals. Someone who is completely untouched is referred to as a prime normal. If you ask him about Morpheus, he'll say, Morpheus. It's quite amusing. He thinks he's so much more than just a slug the Master recruited to head his Children of the Cathedral nonsense. Well, he too will be dipped into the vats, and he'll probably die a horrible death. I hope. If you kill him, he has a unique death animation where he falls apart, and it's implied by this death animation, other than just his eye, that the Master has been doing augmentations to him to build him up to be an even stronger super mutant. In New Vegas, when you're doing GI Blues, if you ask Wayne about being attacked, he'll say one of the guys' name was Lou, and he was dumber than a mutant. It might be a quick little one-off reference to Lieutenant from Fallout 1, but it's one of those, If you ask me, it's more like wordplay than anything else. Lieutenant is a character that I really enjoy. Him and Harry I really, really like, because it shows you the two kinds of mutants, but also it gives the mutants depth. They're not just, hey, we're big and dumb and swing and shoot. Lieutenant has a Gatling laser. Not a lot of the other mutants have that. So he's special, and you get to kind of see a hierarchy, a dichotomy amongst the other mutants. And I hope you've enjoyed that piece of Fallout 1 lore, because that has been this week's lore. Hey everybody, wasn't that great? Didn't you enjoy that? A little bit of Fallout lore to start your day? Maybe midday Fallout lore? Hell, right before bedtime? Doesn't get any better than this. If you like this, check out the Patreon. There's a link in the description below. If you want to have your voice heard, if you want me to do a certain piece of lore, the best way to get in contact with me is through the Patreon. The people who are on screen right now, I gotta thank them. Thank you to these fine folks right now. Because of them, the show can continue to grow and get bigger and better. And if you want to check it out, from the $1 tier to the $10 tier, your voice is heard every single week. I filmed the full Atomic Radio Hour podcast episodes live in our Discord. Hey, you know what? While you're here, check out the Discord. There should be a link in the description below. Check out my Twitter. Check out the show's Twitter. Come hang out. It's a good time. My name has been Vince. I hope you guys enjoyed that. Thank you for supporting. Thank you for hanging out. Thank you to the Patreon. I love you guys, and I'll see you in the next one.